I'm here with Ash McKenzie, who is a very super cool guy, and I'm just going to ask him some questions. So let's go. So, where did you all start with music? Where did the passion come from?
The passion come from my early years of growing up around like hip hop and R&B. I mean, I was born in 1990, so like 90s music. As we got into the 2000s, rap was really big. So, and then Eminem released the 8 Mile film, which inspired quite a lot of us in year 8 to try and rap. And I remember we did like a little rapping tournament, and that was like the first spark of thinking, you know what, it could be something we could do. So over the next like year or so, I just kept writing lyrics and rapping, and trying to get better at it.
Yeah.
Worked out that it was a lot about just practice, really. Practice in front of the mirror, practicing with the lyrics, practicing over different beats. And then we're talking maybe 2004, 2005, I was walking to school, and a friend from school come up to me and says, hey, I loved 8 Mile, I want to start a crew up. I said, cool. So we started a crew, and the music of the time was grime music. So that's what we started on. And like every lunchtime, every playtime, would be out on the field, like rapping with our little crew, using our maths books and English books for lyrics and stuff like that. And that was kind of the first spark. From there, Daniel, who actually I run this place with, he was quite a bit older than me, like in sixth form, and when he left, he then created some projects that got us young musicians into workshops that then allowed us to go to recording studios. We even rehearsed here actually, like 20 years ago. And then it led to us performing at venues. One was the Sound House, which is one I don't think you ever would have experienced,
Yeah,
but you may have heard of it. It's near the lab. It's a Moldovan place now, but it's like an underground venue. It's really cool. And then at the Racehorse, which is the Black Prince now.
Yeah.
They were my earlier times. So
Yeah.
it was a very interesting time in Northampton, even just in the UK, because everyone had a couple of lyrics because the music was hot. And it meant that anywhere you went, there'd always be a group of people like rapping and stuff like that. Yeah.
That's cool. Were you quite sad when the place shut down?
The Sound House, yeah, it was a shame that place shut down. It was a really good
Yeah.
venue.
Yeah.
Again, it was like on that circuit of underground, like you have the Racehorse, like you have the Lab. It was like another one of those venues.
Yeah.
It shut down for a while. Yeah, it's now reopened, but it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, that's really sad. I've noticed some of the. I think it's King Billy shut down. I was just
Yeah,
like, no.
yeah, another independent venue that supported those kind of alternate musics.
Yeah. So with bands, how did you like first get into your like?
Yeah, so I carried on rapping as I got into my late teens. Then I went off to university, and I always wanted to be in a band. I just thought it would be a cool thing to do. Then I met with some people that live near me on in our student estate thing, and he played bass, and he was like, "Oh, I've got a friend who plays the drums, and his brother plays the guitar." So we all hung out and just started to jam, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's another element of like being a rapper or being a lyricist, let's say, is very important, I think, to test yourselves on different genres, put yourself in different scenarios. So like they're jamming and I was kind of freestyling, and over a month or two we kind of built a style for ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, this is cool, we could perform with this. And then what was our first name? The Smoky Jewels, and then we called ourselves the Sea-Based Turtles.
Yeah.
And that's where my first real band began.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I've looked at them. They're so good. I really like Dracula. Then Go Funk Yourself. The jam. I thought they were so cool. I really like the saxophone. It's so cool. But how did you get gigs with them? Because stuff like that, it's not like covers, so you have to put yourself out there.
I think it helped that some of the guys in the band were in another band before, a few years before, so they had a few links when we were up in Stoke. It's a venue called the Sugar Mill, which is a bit similar to the Roadmender.
Yeah.
And he knew the promoter there, and she put us on. And then it was just networking. I think that area of the UK, there's a lot of bands. There's a really good like live music scene, a lot of underground bands. So throughout time, we then found certain venues around that we could play at, not just in one town, but spread out around the area. But I would say that one of the keys to to being a successful kind of touring band is to, number one, have some recordings or have a website, have something that shows who you are, and then to really mine into who is the person that books gigs here. You know, like in Northampton, I know that through the Lab and the Black Prince, the right people to talk to. But then it also means that sometimes if they've got a date free, you might then have to look at what are the bands or artists you can bring in, so that it's a full night of different styles of music that can pull in a few different crowds, which then gives the promoter confidence in like the crowd that you can pull, and then makes it easier to book more gigs.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, because I've noticed when I've played a gig at the Lab with Cherry Soul, and if you can't pack the Lab, it is kind of quite sad. So yeah, that's good to know. Thanks. Do you think networking is really important for musicians to get into the scene?
Definitely. Like, the more people you know, the more opportunities can arise, and the more chances of something popping off for you. I think it's helpful to know bands that are on your level of growth, but also some that are a bit further along, because they may have parts of the puzzle that you don't have yet, and they can help you kind of raise up together.
That's really nice. I'm wondering, how did you get into doing like sound system restoration?
Sound systems, I think it was very much inspired by a sound system from yesteryear of Northampton called the High Grade Rockers. They used to do a lot of stuff again at the Black Prince and the Umbrella Fair, and they took us in when we were like kind of late teens and kind of showed us the ropes. They took us down to festivals with them where we'd be running a tent with them for the whole weekend, and then they started to let us play and get used to things, and that really inspired us. And then over the years they then stopped their sound system, and there was quite a big gap for a sound system for the community. So I was lucky enough to write for some funding through the Northampton Community Foundation to build a sound system and do a range of workshops. And once that was done, we had this sound system at the end. And I was talking to a few of my friends that were part of the High Grade Rockers journey with me, and I said, what should we call it? And PJ, shout out PJ, he suggested, let's call it restoration, because that's what we aim to do. Kind of restore that sound system culture and how things used to be done.
Yeah, that's actually really nice, because I've seen you put like a lot of events up. Like, do you have to look for people to play at those events?
Yeah, usually we'll get a date in, and then we'll look at who could we invite for this, what vibe are we going for? Is it more dub and reggae? Is it more drum and bass music? You know, like, and finding the right artists to join us for that journey.
Yeah. How do you organise them? Because I know it must be like a nightmare to like find people, get the venues, the health and safety stuff if you do that, because health and safety scares me.
H&S, yeah, and risk assessments. We've been quite lucky on that front, but it is quite a process. We learnt a lot as a sound system, because one side of it is securing the venue. Second one is making your flyers, your posters, and inviting the artists, doing the write-ups and having a plan for how you're going to market. Then the next stage is just the logistics. You know, like getting a van, having enough people to load the van, to offload the van. Then, like, if you're lucky, you can take the stuff with you that night at the end of the night. But if it's 3 a.m. and you've all been playing, then odds are you're going to pick it up the next day. So then there's logistics around that as well. So it does help to have a good team of people that are really motivated to make it happen, because it is a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah, oh gosh, couldn't imagine that. But yeah, for like the promotion and stuff, because I saw on like the sound system, I was wondering about your use of AI art. Like, how do you feel about AI art in music?
I think AI art is helpful. This logo was made on ChatGPT, and all we needed to do was move some of the wording around. So I think it can be helpful for things.
Yeah.
The music side of it, that's a bit, I guess you could say that like images are expressions of art, but I think music even more so, because that takes a bit more craft. So as AI grows a little bit more, I still don't think it will be able to replace human input and creativity fully in some areas.
I'm glad, like, with the live performances, you can't get that from AI.
Yeah, you can't get that from AI. Yeah.
Did you ever think about like paying someone to do all the stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, previously I've created logos and stuff, but this was when the image creation just came out, and I thought, let me just give it a try.
That's fair enough, yeah.
And it came out pretty well.
Yeah, that's very do it yourself, and then bam, which
Yeah.
is really nice. Do you record at any like bands here, or do you get people in to record some stuff? Because I know you've got the studio there.
We have had artists in to record, not so much bands at the moment, but definitely like singers and rappers. We record a lot of those.
Yeah, yeah. Because I was wondering, because I think Millie she wants us to record some original songs, and she was like, we can record it at your place.
Yeah, we
I think we were talking about the logistics of getting a drum kit.
that's the one challenge,
Yeah.
but there's a few rooms in the building where we could do that quite well.
That's cool. Yeah. Is it useful having like all the equipment here?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It allows us to do quite a lot of different things at the same time.
Yeah. And with the media place upstairs, you do like music videos there for.
Yeah, we've done music videos and podcasts and things like that.
Yeah. Is the How I Became podcast done up there?
No, that was done mainly in London, which again provides its own set of challenges.
Yeah, getting there. Is it like profitable to like run the events and like, as you said, like go down to London and do that, come all the way back?
It depends on what your outcome is.
Yeah.
For How I Became, it was to tell inspirational stories, and that then coupled it up as us building quite a really interesting network of high profile and high performing individuals, which opens more doors here and there for different things.
That's nice, yeah. I think that's it. I think you've answered pretty much everything I wanted to get out of you. It's actually really nice. So thank you, and then thank you ever so much for doing this. You've helped me massively.
No, no problem, man.
It's been
Always
really nice.
happy to share some knowledge.
Good. Thank you. All thumbs up.
Great.